Hi. So you bought a brand new multifamily property. Congratulations. Now, in order to be successful, you obviously want to create a budget. And that budget is going to be critical to your property's success. My partner, Nicole Amundsen, is going to teach you specifically how we do that. And with thousands of units across the United States, we think we've got a pretty good system. If you have value in this, you find value in this presentation, please make sure you like, share, and subscribe. And if you look in the description below, there's a link to another video that has even more teachings. Thanks, and we'll see you inside. So welcome to the new people, and for the people that are sticking around for the second part to the Teaching Tuesday for the Virtual REI Academy, which is the residential side. We had a lot of people, I guess, ask us, hey, do you guys do anything with single family? And I haven't done single family in a very long time. Nicole still does it once in a while. But what we ended up doing was kind of like the class we built for multifamily. We went out and built something called the Virtual REI Academy, which has about 15 different instructors, about 45 courses on all sorts of different strategies, things you can do, basically how to create and run a successful single family residential investing business. And we reached out to Jane and Sharon because they have had tremendous success in this area. They're very trustworthy. We like them a lot. They've had great success. I think they've done, I can never keep track, 150, 170 some odd deals already. A lot of them not even in the area where they live. So they've got tremendous skill set. So having said that, I guess I'll just pass it over to you guys.
I'm sorry, we were muted.
How long have we been doing Zoom?
Can you guys see the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you for the introduction, James, and I'm glad it did go over with the money issues, because that's where all of us have the problem, especially beginner real estate investors trying to find the money and find money lenders. So that was great. We have a guest here. Do you want to talk about?
Yeah. So like one of the biggest things with residential that we see people getting hurt like right away is the actual rehab and working with contractors. But we want to do a different perspective, because just as, a lot of investors feel like they're getting, hurt or screwed or whatever, a lot of the actual contractors, from their perspective, we're kind of like hammering down on them as about cost and things. So something a little bit different tonight. We're bringing our friend and a contractor from Baltimore on. Miguel's been doing contracting for quite a while, I think 10 years, and he's had his own companies, a GC for the last 7 years. He's done a lot of projects for us and a partner up in the Baltimore area, and I just wanted to talk to him a little bit about his perspective on costs and how to work with investors and how to build that good relationship with an investor so that you can both be successful. We have a contractor down here in Florida as well, and they're just beating him up with costs, and maybe he doesn't necessarily know how to work with investors in this area, and they're just kind of beating him up because he's the new guy down here. But so we just, for mutual success, we're bringing Miguel on, and I think he's here. You on, sir?
I think I am. Can you guys hear me?
Okay, there you are.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
yeah, awesome.
While we have you on, we wanted to brag and showcase some of your projects that we had access to. You probably have more and better ones. I didn't know if you had a slideshow or anything you wanted, but the ones that we knew about, there's in Baltimore, 3018 Elizabeth Avenue. This one was one that he flipped for rental. So this is his rent ready, and you can see how great his skills are with, this is just a rent rental, and how beautiful he's done this one. And then so he can do both. He can do flip to rents or market. This one is another house that we had in Glen Oak that he made it beautiful and for the market, and it sold. What did it sell in like 2 days, didn't it?
And this was a little bit, we had a different contractor that started this, so we actually handed Miguel a mess, like to fix, right? So
I mean, it was you guys pretty much threw me into like a beehive. But the end result turned out nice. I like the way it looked. Everybody liked the way it looked. And like Sharon said, it actually sold pretty fast. So we're
Right.
But
happy.
then, like, I think it was hours. It sold in hours.
Yeah, it
And
went pretty quick. Went pretty
he
quick.
made
I
it
remember that.
beautiful. I'll stop sharing so we can see you. And I just wanted to showcase some of your work while we had you.
Okay.
So if you want to tell everybody a little bit, I mean, we know you've been doing it for a little bit, just tell them a little bit about yourself and how you came into this and
And how people can reach out to you if they want to hire you on.
Well, like you said, Jen, I've been doing this for about 10 years. I was doing it through other clients and other investors before I had my own company. Then I started my company 7 years ago or so. And right around I guess the 6 or 5 year mark, that's when we met and MJ. Then I started doing projects for you guys. And so far everything's been going good. No complaints. You get your occasional, project from HE double hockey sticks that, it'll give you quite the headache. But for the most part, everything runs smoothly. The market always changes depending on people want. And we have different, grade levels as far as if you want something rent ready, or if you want something that's going to be just a quick sell. We can pretty much take care of all aspects as far as residential. And yeah, I'll be more than happy to help anybody or work with anybody. I don't know if Shane has my information as far as my numbers or contact information, but I can give that to you guys before I get off this call. But I'm definitely, willing and able to help anybody or work together with anybody and, help each other out in any way possible.
what are some of the biggest pains working with investors and like what is your biggest pet peeve working
From
with
my personal
investors?
experience, I guess,
Mhm.
because you get a lot of people that aren't licensed and they'll come in and they'll undercut you like deeply. Like we'll
Mhm.
just going off just the number, just say flooring. Say if I throw a number saying I can do it for say 5,000, somebody else comes in unlicensed and everything, and he'll throw like a 2,000, 2,500. So I have to more or less kind of compete with that if I want to get whatever business I want to get from that person. Otherwise, I just keep shopping around. But it hasn't really affected me that much because since I've been doing this for a while, my work kind of speaks for itself. So I don't really have to go out there and pretty much sell myself. I just the nine pretty much 10 out of the 10 things I get, it's just referrals. Just people telling other people, word of mouth. They see my product. They can actually walk and actually see it instead of just seeing it on slides or pictures or videos. But that would be, I guess, that's more of a nuisance than anything because you get all kinds of people that'll come in, that they want to do, they can actually do the work, but since they're not licensed, their number just it's just so absurd that you have to be on the lookout for that because sooner or later you're gonna have to compete with that because there's especially in Baltimore there's about 10 million people chasing the same penny, so
How do
it
they
kind of is what it
sustain
is. But
how do
what's
they
that?
sustain when they're undercutting themselves? How are they making a living like
I
that?
don't. That's what mind boggles me. I don't know because if I'm giving them my price and I'm making okay. I'm not making more or less what I want to be making, and I only give that to people that I've done business with in the past. But then if they come in with a number like that pretty much cuts mine in half, I don't even know how that you can't even break even at that point. But I guess they know something I don't. But the thing
Well,
is, I can't. It's just more of a nuisance than anything. But you
you're
know,
paying insurance and some other stuff that they're
that's the thing.
probably not,
Yeah, well, yeah,
they're not going to pay all that or workman's comp for your guys or, just different things that they don't
yeah.
have to pay. So that's where they cut their money. But then as an investor, you're risking, we
It's
just,
kind of it's kind of the same thing. Like if I buy a property that's going to be mine personally, that I'm going to personally flip myself, I can play with the numbers a little bit more because I know I'm gonna one that's going to be doing the work, so I don't have to pay that contractor fee because I'm going to do it myself. So I can kind of drop the number. I know what I can do as far as flexing the numbers here and there to make it work and make it profitable for me. Whereas they're pretty much doing the same things just on a smaller scale. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
right, right.
And I'm sure that you have investors reaching out to you after they've tried to go cheap with somebody else
Yeah.
and they didn't
No,
do the work the right
yeah.
way, or
And
it's
I tell them, I'm like, you can go that way. That's fine. And no hard feelings if you want to go. But then at the end of the day, you're gonna get what you pay for. And then I'm
Right.
like, you can go that way, but here I can give you a warranty, I give you a guarantee, and I'm licensed and everything. So you don't have to worry about that. It's more or less peace of mind. But if you want to, roll the dice, like they say, feel free. It's your property. Completely do what you want.
Exactly. We knew an investor in the Baltimore area that had another person, the same thing, just throw it together and for cheap
Yeah,
in Baltimore. And like a person was walking across the floor and they fell through. And then of course the investor is going to get sued for, and then it's not a safe environment that
yeah,
you're creating
exactly.
for your tenants. So
Yeah, because at the
that's
end of the day, when everything's said and done, say somebody else comes into the property, if they want to see permits or anything like that, none of that's going to be, you're not going to be able to provide that. Then
Yeah,
that's gonna hurt your sell price. So all those little things,
absolutely.
eventually they'll build up, and then it'll factor in somehow, some way.
Absolutely.
What kind of paperwork do you look for from an investor? Or, are you just write something down on a napkin and, call it a day? Or how specific do you get on your scope of work if that's where we're going to head with this?
Well, you guys have seen more or less how my scope of works go. I break it down to every single room. You know what I mean? So everybody
Mhm.
knows that we're all on the same page. I break it down to like master bedroom, second bedroom, first floor bathroom, everything. Try to be as specific as possible, so that there's no kind of things can't be misinterrupted, and then everybody can see pretty much is on the same page. Then there's no room for like kind of any kind of miscommunication of any kind. It's a lot easier that way. But as far as working with new investors, uh, when it comes to that, depending on how they are, because I like to do my background on them too. Depending on what it is, we'll start off something small and just to kind of test the waters. Then if I see it's something that's gonna progress, like what I did with MJ. I did that. I started off with something small. Then I seen this was gonna be something that's gonna actually benefit the both of us. Then I went into more detail and took on more and more work, as you know. And
Right.
it's kind of like the same path I take with any investor that I get involved with.
Gotcha. And how specific do you get? Do you get down to, like switch plates and
Yeah, yeah.
okay.
That's all
And
just
that's a learning curve, right? From people that say,
yeah,
hey, you didn't put in
yeah.
new switch
No, I
plates
put I
and
put
new
every little thing
this.
down. Switch plates, smoke detector, CO2 detector, everything. Everything that can be switched out, I put it on there. Then I put that in my scope of work. Then whether or not you want to take stuff out of there, that's up to the client. But I try to put down everything that I can possible that can be switched out on there. So you can see like this is what it's going to be to do this, XYZ. And then if you want to mess with the scope of work a little bit, then we can, pretty much alter
Chop
it.
it down. Right. What's can you tell everybody what a change order is and what that is?
A change order would be, let's see, going off something like floor. Say if in my scope of work, I put in, okay, we're gonna do laminate floor, right? And I give you X amount of money it's gonna cost to do that. Then, halfway through the property or the project, you come back and say, okay, we've thought it over. I want to change it over to either hardwood or like a tile, which is fine. I've done that in the past, but the scope of work has to be amended some kind of way. You have to have that change order to know that this happened such day. We're both agreeing, and then whatever price we agreed upon, then that gets entered into the whole scope of work, and then that way it's visibly there, the saying that something's going to be changed, and we're both on the same page about it. That's how I do my change orders.
Okay. Yeah.
Makes sense.
That's just, like some of the new investors don't know and they'll just want to change something up and say, oh, I want, or something that you stumble upon, right? So,
Yeah,
you think the plumbing's okay and
yeah,
then all
and
of a
that
sudden
also,
you
yeah,
find
that
some,
exactly.
right.
That also, happens for unforeseen things. As far as if you walk into most rental properties that you go into, you don't know how long they've been sitting there. You don't know especially if the utilities aren't on, the water's not on, electricity's not on. You don't know what's actually going to happen until all that stuff gets turned on. Because it might look fine, but once you actually turn everything on, the whole everything there might be leaks everywhere. Who knows? There might be leaks behind the walls you can't see. It's just the endless amount of possibilities that can happen when before that's just unforeseen that nobody can know. No, nobody can tell you until you actually start moving stuff around.
Right. Or open some walls up and who
Yeah,
knows what you're going to find there.
Electricity or
that's happened more often than not.
Yeah. No, no
Yeah,
doubt.
we know that.
Is there
It
any,
does.
like a lot of people on here are from, we have some people from all over, but there's some Baltimore folks on here. What's like the biggest pitfall or, like thing to look out for, like lead paint or,
That
what's
yeah,
the biggest?
if you're gonna do a rental property, yes, that will be a huge thing to look out for because I mean, I've also done stuff in Hagerstown as well, and they're really, really picky though. It could be the slightest thing. It won't even be lead, but as long as they see that paint is chipping and it's starting to come up, they're just gonna, just mark it off as being lead based. And then they're not gonna be like, okay, just change this small amount. You gotta change the whole thing. So you have to kind of factor all that little stuff in. I mean, sometimes it's not good, but also you have to think worst case scenario. Because if that actually happens, you have to budget for that. Because otherwise, that's got to come from somewhere.
Right,
But
yeah,
yeah,
no doubt.
that would be
Also,
definitely a big thing.
absolutely. Also, we noticed that it's a lot of basements up there, and then there's a lot of water issues in the basements. So at one point we were just having the contractor put French drains in all the basements. What is your thoughts on that?
A lot of people, well, depending on what you plan on doing in the basement, like if you're actually going to turn it over into like a living space, you're going to put bedrooms or whatever down there, then yeah, you have to put some kind of filtration system down there in case something happens. But most of the time, especially a lot of these Baltimore ones, it's just dirt or rock. So there's nothing really there. And
That's
then in
true.
order to do something, because if you did, because and then like I said, some of these buildings are old too. If you start digging too much, you're going to undermine stuff. You're going to start moving a lot, too many things around, and then you're messing with the structural part of the whole building. But if you can, I would suggest putting a French drain anywhere you can, just for peace of mind. So in case flood does happen, it doesn't destroy everything or as many things as it can.
Yeah. What would you suggest questions or information that a real estate investor should get from or look for when hiring a GC and trying to start building a good relationship and partnership in the future?
Well, most good general contractors, they have some kind of if you ask about them, you'll hear about them. Or they'll be able to show you, references quick, or they'll be able to show you, proof of work they've done, with snap of a finger. It wouldn't take that long to do that. When you start seeing somebody, they're like, when you start digging too into their background and don't see too much, then it's either because they're something's wrong, obviously, or they're hiding something. But I mean, usually you just pretty much do your background, check into them. And as far as me, and this happens still to this day. Like people will call me, and I don't even know how they got my number, and they'll tell me that you guys gave it to them. I'm like, okay, and that's because if you're a good contractor, people are going to hear about you, and then your name is going to be out there, and then that's how you would actually. I would say, just look around. I mean, ask people because I mean, especially investors, in between that little circle of investors, if you ask a lot of people or enough of them, somebody's going to know who you are eventually. It's just, I mean, if you're somebody that's reputable like that, you're gonna be known. They're gonna know about you.
Right. Gotcha. Do you prefer working with investors or homeowners?
I would say
Some
investors.
of this I'm just putting you on the spot. We're
I
just
know,
off the top
I
of my
know.
head, right?
Well,
Like
I've
we
actually had
didn't
good luck with. I've actually had good luck with investors. I've never really had too many. I had more headaches with homeowners than investors because investors they kind of know what the deal is. They know the whole situation. Whereas a homeowner, they'll tell you or more or less have an idea from their point of mind or their perspective and thinking that that's what it's going to be. But in actuality, as far as in any rehab, there's always going to be that unknown of what can happen, and investors know that. They'll be like, okay, well, it's like we said about the whole plumbing. You never know what's going to happen. Where a homeowner doesn't want to hear that; they just want to be like, fix it. I'm like, okay, well, I don't even know what I'm fixing yet. But an investor
right,
more or less will have that kind of mindset that there could be things that are going to go wrong, and you don't have to do too much explaining as far as that part of it. So in that aspect, I would like investors more. But
gotcha.
like I said, I've
Okay.
had good luck with them. I've never had any bad investors yet. So
What
not
is
going.
your take on working with investors like JVing on a property, like maybe them bringing the property and you do the work and like split profits or that sort of thing? What's your take or thoughts on that?
I would do that. I would try that. Try that. I've never done that, but I would try it. But then again, it would depend on who I'm dealing with. And like I said, before I even dove into dealing with anybody, I would, some would do some kind of check about them, find out, I would ask you about them because if you haven't heard about them, then I'm pretty sure that nobody has because you guys know everybody.
Does anybody else have any questions? I bet Ernie might have some. He's actually wealth of information. He's a contractor and a realtor in North Carolina.
Oh, really?
In Charlotte, yeah.
Okay.
No, so Miguel was hitting quite a bit of points there. We do a mixture of with our own clients as well as our own fix and flips and with homeowners. And so yeah, there are kind of discrepancies with each because I find with the homeowners they lack kind of the finished vision.
Yeah.
And so that leaves a lot of like open-ended areas where they will get confused on. They'll, they're working off of a budget but they don't have that finished idea of what they want done. And so it's hard for them to communicate something. And I always kind of relate it back to like you taking your car into the mechanic and hey, it's making this noise. And you're expected to kind of understand and be the professional and work through it. And that's what they're coming to you for. And that's kind of where all the headaches are. With the investors, they are not rookies. They're, they get into this a lot more often. They have either already, dealt with those types of issues and stuff before, or they're a lot more open to it and understanding it. Now, those are the more seasoned ones. So definitely to Miguel's point, there's some, positives of both. I find with the investors, they also are working off of the budgets, right? And there's fair pricing that goes into that, but on the other side with the homeowners, there's also an opportunity to go a little higher on pricing.
That would be the only thing.
Yeah, based off of just having to handhold them through the process a lot more.
Yeah. I would agree with that.
Yeah, so that would be my only point with it. But so yeah, it's doing the realtor side of things and doing the GC side of things. I mean, there's a caveat to all of it. Anytime you're dealing with people that have a first name and last name, there's always some kind of issue or problem that you can end up having. And it's really just kind of my upfront contracts with everybody. I have a lot of conversations with, and I always kind of revert back and say, hey, here's the number 9. And whether Miguel comes in and he chooses how to do it to a 1-8 and I do it as a 3-6, it doesn't matter. If you have that blueprint of what that number 9 is supposed to look like at the end and understand all the fingers that, all the finger bubbles that go down of what the process is to get there to that number 9, it's irrelevant, the process going through it. So it's like but a lot of people at the back end don't understand what that finished product is.
Yeah.
And that's where all the discrepancies is. So I ask a lot of questions up front to mitigate a lot of those headaches. Because when I started out doing the GC stuff, my first 2 clients, I didn't do a very good job of that because I was learning that process, that part of being the GC. And those ended up coming 2 lawsuits that I had to go after. And it wasn't a pleasant experience. So that made me change the business model of how I did things as those for the real estate investors and those as a house client. So it's different for sure.
It is. I can imagine. Yeah.
So quick question. A lot of people that get into the business, or a lot of people get into the business because they see all the stuff on HGTV and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So the expectations for a new flipper might be one thing versus reality. Do you find that you have to educate a lot of new investors in terms of, look, I'm telling you this, but if I break down this wall, there might be something else? Or do you not have that issue? How does that work?
No, I do. I try to be as transparent as possible, especially when I'm dealing with like somebody that pretty much knows nothing. And all they have is just watch the show on TV.
Right.
I try to be as detailed as far as possible. So, that kind of, it gives them that reassurance. And it also strengthens that bond between you and your client that, they can more or less trust you. If you can explain to them step by step what the process is going to be, the more detail you put into it, the easier it is for them to see it. You know what I mean? And then it'll alleviate any kind of concerns if there are any, and then it makes the process a lot smoother. That's how it's been in my case, anyways.
Mhm.
So I don't mind taking the time to explain, how this is going to happen, what's going to happen, what's going to happen after that. Going step by step so they can actually start to visualize it, and then in their head it makes more sense, and then that way they can also once they get that certain level of trust, I see that they'll tend to leave you alone more, and then you can get more done.
Right.
Or that's what it's been in my experience, anyways.
Do you work with out-of-state investors that are just like, hey, I bought this property in Baltimore, I need it done, and then they kind of hire you, and then if that does happen, what kind of, I guess, paperwork or pictures, or how do you let them know what's going on so their comfort level is high enough and go, okay, I feel good, I can go ahead and release the next draw or whatever it may be.
Well, the houses that Jane and Sharon showed you from the beginning, that's actually from a investor I have that's based out of Atlanta. I've seen him. I met him maybe 3 or 4 times.
Mhm.
But when it comes to like our draws, I provide videos because in video, you could, because photos can be, finagled here and there, but a video, if you're actually doing it live, it's a lot easier to believe. And
Mhm.
doing that, time and time and over again, I've gained that level of trust with him too, where he doesn't really, even though I still provide it for him, but he knows more or less the quality or what I'm going to be providing him anyways. Because I try to be as open as I can. But some people just want photos; they don't even want the videos; they would like photos. But whatever it takes. I mean, it is what it is. Whatever's going to ease your mind, that's what I'm here to do. I'm not here to create a headache. I'm here to make the process smooth.
So with this person from Atlanta, when you first started working with them, did they want a video once a week, once a day, once a month?
I did it per draw. More or less, it was once a week.
Okay.
Unless something came up, like some unforeseen thing came up, then it would be more often. But besides that, if everything goes according to plan, then usually at least once a week,
And
just
then
so
do
they
you
can get
ask
used to like
them,
where we're at.
do you ask them for a deposit to start, or you front the money and then you start doing draws after that?
Typically, we do a deposit up front, and then the rest of the remaining balance, those draws can be, I've done them different ways.
Mhm.
Some people they like to do it like, say if I'm doing a 3-level floor, they like to do it per floor. Or some people they want to do like once all the paint and drywall is done, or once the flooring is done. That can be finagled a little bit. That can be,
Mhm.
it can go either way. It doesn't really matter. It depends on the client more or less and what they're comfortable with.
I guess I'm just curious because you hear all these horror stories, right? And I'm sure you've heard a lot of them. Both you guys have probably heard a lot of them yourselves. It's like, oh, I gave this guy 10 grand, and the next day, he
I've
was
seen people that
gone.
do that. Yeah, yeah.
So how do you alleviate that? How do you get them to be comfortable? It's like, look, when you give me 10 grand, I promise I'm not going to go to, live
Well,
casino and blow it all tomorrow.
some things that I have done also in the past, like more or less that first draw, the initial draw is to start off buying materials, right?
Mhm.
And I'll say, look, I'll make you a materials list. And I make the list for him and I put it in a Home Depot shopping cart or a Lowe's shopping cart, whatever the case may be. And I'll send you that link. I'm like, this is what it's gonna be. Can you at least give me this amount and maybe just a little extra so I can just throw it to my guys? And then you'll physically can see where their money's going. You know what I mean? So you don't like, oh, he's gonna take off. I'm not taking off. It's going to Lowe's or it's going to
Right.
Home
Yeah.
Depot.
No, I get it. Yeah. But I know a lot of people have that trepidation because,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
never hear about the good stuff, right? You always hear about the bad stuff, right?
Exactly. No,
So
yeah.
people are
Well,
very
one
hesitant.
of the things one of the things I did on that, James, is I had most of the time when I deal with a new client that's like an investor, they'll typically have a Lowe's or Home Depot card, right? And depending
Mhm.
on
That's
which
it.
one is closer to their project, I usually will have them because I'm, being the GC, I'm licensed and whatnot. So I mean, I'm not hiding anywhere. It's through the state, and so I tell them, I say, hey, just put me on as an additional buyer onto your account, and then
Yeah.
that way you can just go right through the account itself or whatever. There are limitations you can put onto the card as far as what I could buy without authorization, and if not, um, like if you set it up through Home Depot, like there'll be a text to verify, so it would text that person, and they would
Yeah.
have to verify
It's
that
like a
the
phone
person
sale.
was there. Yeah, so So there are a lot of ways to kind of work around that to where that they're comfortable. And then once you kind of do what you say you're going to do, then the reins kind of loosen up, right? Because you guys are just dating at this particular point.
Exactly.
So, you know.
Great, good stuff. Thank you.
Because it can go the other way around very quickly too, where the contractor can get taken advantage of by the investor. And how do you protect yourself from that? How do you, what do you do to curtail that or protect yourself?
That's where that initial deposit comes into play. So I know at least, when I do that, it like say I'm taking on a project and the materials alone are going to be 10,000. I try to ask for, some that at least cover half of that, and then some a little bit more, just so for me, and not even me, but for like my guys, my workers, so I know that it's going to be there. You know what I mean? Because the same thing, like you said, could happen to us too. Like you can tell me, okay, well, here I bought all the materials, here they are, and then a week goes by, I've provided 5 long days of work, but then nothing comes back. Then I'm sitting there, I got to put a lien in their house, I don't want to do all that. It's just a headache that you don't necessarily need.
Sure, that makes sense.
The same thing can happen the other way around.
Right. And I guess that's why we wanted to, because we, as investors, a lot of people, tell their horror stories, but I'm sure there's quite a many with the contractors as well, where, they're not getting paid, or, things go south, or, they start saying you were supposed to fix this and that, and it didn't get fixed, or different things. That's kind of why we wanted to hear your perspective. Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
You always think about, that contractor did this and that contractor did that. We wanted to get your side, because of course, it's always one-sided and slanted, like Jane said. So, to get your perspective to see how things could be run more smoothly and easier for both sides to continue the partnership.
Yeah. My thing is just communication. It's just like a relationship. Communication is key. The more you tell somebody and the less they have to wonder, the smoother the thing will be. That's how it's been with me, with all the long time investors that I have and the really good ones that I've been, blessed to be a partner with. It's been that way. It's whenever people start, not communicating, then, things can be taken different ways. You can be like, okay, well, you wanted me to fix this. I didn't want it like that. And then, it starts going downhill. Then you don't want that. Because then that trust is broken. Then it's just, you pretty much, you don't even want to go to the job site no more. They don't even want to see you there anymore. It's just, no.
Yeah.
But luckily, I haven't had that situation happen. But my thing is, communication is the best thing.
Yeah, totally.
That's what I think. That's with everything, right? Hey, Miguel, I know you've flipped a bunch of your own houses. Are you going to continue to do that? So you have investor hat and GC hat. How many more projects are you looking to do, or?
Possibly in the future, I do want to get back into that. Right now, I've just been doing stuff for other clients, but gotcha. I do want to throw my hat in there again, I guess.
Yeah, because you've done very well. I didn't have the addresses to pull them up, but those flips were amazing too. So, anybody else have any questions? It's a good opportunity for you guys to actually talk to a good contractor. Any other questions?
I do
materials?
have a question.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so as a contractor, I'm not a contractor, but for contractors, I do ask a lot of questions. So thank you for the upfront detailed scope of work.
Yeah.
I am also someone who, when I watch my contractors build this addition on my house, actually transform my house, because he said he's gonna make a window into a door, and I was like, how do you do that? Like, what are you talking about? How do you deal with people like me who are just like amazed at what contractors can do? Even with, I had a slope on my backyard, and he was like, well, level it out and make it bigger. Like, how do you do when someone comes with a, let's say, small vision, because they just do not fully understand everything that you're capable of doing? Are you open to saying like, hey, I know this is your idea, but this is how I can make it better?
I do that all the time.
Okay. I'm going to get your information.
Like, especially if I'm walking a property with somebody. Well, it depends. If they're like looking for a rental type thing, then you're not going to do too much, because you're just going to rent it, right? But if you're actually looking to sell it, then when I walk a property with somebody, if we can do that, which is the best way to do it, and they'll take me to like the kitchen or the bathroom saying, "Oh, I want to do this, that, and the other." And then after, I don't say no, that's wrong. Don't do that. I don't do that. I
Okay.
just add on to their vision. I'm like, okay, well, you know what? That's a good idea, but here's something else you might want to consider. And then I'll be like, look, take down this wall right here, put
Mhm.
in an island or something, just do this, that, and the other. And then, then they'll be like, oh yeah. And then, it just, then they'll open up more. And
Yeah.
it's good. I mean, like I said, I do that a lot, but not because, I want to be like, oh, I have the best ideas. I do that because to me, I feel like that's part of my job anyways, to give you ideas and to make you whatever your property or your project better and, actually be what you want it to be.
Thank you.
Take a few minutes and put your information on the chat so that people can grab your information if
Yeah, I didn't want to necessarily put your cell phone that I call. I don't know if that
we didn't know what
what's
information
your
to put.
company number. And we didn't talk about this at all. We just kind of, this is on the fly about what we we're going to ask, and I'm trying to think of another question. I think one thing that and maybe more so builders or whatever recently, but when the cost of all the materials went up, how did you deal with that if you already had prices in place for jobs, and then all of a sudden the prices jumped up? Or did you see that coming? And you can think about that while you're writing.
Well, no, when all that started happening, obviously my price went up somewhat. It didn't skyrocket or anything, but you have to somewhat, you have to allow for that change. And I tell that to them up front, but like, look, this is what it is now. And if they ask me like, oh, why is it so much? Then I just tell them, look, this is what your materials cost alone. My labor is going to be the labor, but more or less a chunk of that is coming from the materials. And if they want to see, more in depth about it, then I'll actually show them like this is what you're going to be getting. You're welcome to pick, or I give them an allowance. Like say you want to switch out a kitchen cabinet or whatever, or like a bathroom vanity. Be like, okay, well, according to my scope of work, I budgeted $350. If you want to go above that, you have to make up that difference. The labor is going to be the labor, but if he picks something at $700, as long as you come up with 350, that's fine. But that's what it is. What it is. Same for materials. And I'll tell them, look, go ahead.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I forgot what I was going to say. You cut me off.
I'm sorry, my bad. Do you see materials? Do you see the prices coming down? Like I know before, like we would go get, I don't know,
Piece of
2x4 plywood, and it was like, and then a couple months later, it was like quadruple. Do you see prices coming down, or how's the Baltimore market for?
I mean, it's come down, but not like anything significant. Like just based off a 2x4, like you said, before it used to be like $3. Then it jumped up to like 5.25. Now it's sort of like it's hovering about like $4.60 or something like that. So it's coming down, but it's not like what it used to be. What's really killing us or me is the price the price of plywood. It's just crazy.
Right?
It like tripled. I'm like, Jesus. It did. I was like, that's crazy. But
Yeah, when it's sitting at like $55 a board.
yeah, that's crazy. No, especially if you get like pressure treated, you're looking at it's like almost $80. That's
I was going to say on the height of it, I went to Home Depot and it was like $89
Yeah,
for one
it's
board.
insane.
I could not believe it.
About had a heart attack. Do
Yeah,
you
you used to get like 5 sheets for that cost.
Yeah.
yeah, right. No doubt.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Miguel, do you offer any kind of financing? Like, would you finance somebody's project and put that, or have you ventured into that? I know some companies do that, and I don't know if they get burnt or not, or
That would happen after, we've done a couple of properties together because we have to build up that relationship first because I like I said, that's something I haven't done that. I think I only done it maybe one time in my whole, being a business owner.
right.
I've
And did
never,
that work out for you, or was it a good experience or bad experience?
it was good at the beginning was good. But then towards the end, when they started seeing the finish line, it just, I hate having to chase people. And they
Right.
just, it was just excuse after excuse after excuse. And the only reason I even considered that is because we had somewhat of a history before. So I was like, okay, everything will be fine. It should be good. So, I went ahead and did it. And, just all kinds of issues happen. Like I said, it would depend on the person and, what kind of relationship we have. And, I'm not going to say no. I'll consider it, but, the circumstance would have to be,
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Have you ever had to put a contractor lien or I don't know what they call them, mechanical lien on a property just because people didn't pay you
No.
or? Okay, good deal.
No, usually the worst I've ever come to is the step right before that. I'm like, look, you have until such day to do something. Otherwise, I have no choice but to do this. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then, once they see that, it's serious, then, but like I said, that's only happened maybe one time to me. And
So here, just like on that point for you, in Charlotte, anything that's over $30,000, we have to go to a lien agent to lien the property automatically.
Wow.
Does that cost a lot of money to do that?
No,
Front
it's
money
like
to you?
no, it's really like $50 of cost. 'Cause
yeah,
you're
I've never actually done it, but I don't think I was told it's not that much to do it.
Yeah. When I've had to go through and put liens on people's properties, and these are even investors that I've done some of this stuff to, because there are some bad people out there that don't play fair, that don't play in the sandbox nice, and so you try to wean them out and do background checks on even everybody that you partnering with, but
Yeah.
you can't get them all.
No, yeah.
Yeah, so when you go in and do the lien, though, it's a task. Like I put a lien on a property. Let's say, for instance, this client ended up owing, really only started out at $10,000 at the finish, um, and what it was, a week before they actually were due to close on the property, they sat down with me and said, "Oh, we don't have any money right now. Can we put it out to we close on the property and then pay you out in HUD?" And I was like, okay. I said, well, do you have a contract on the property? No, we don't have any contract yet. Well, come to find out that they closed on the property the
Yeah,
following
yeah.
to hopefully circumvent me from putting a lien on the property. Well, because I had previously done work, I went back, put a lien, and it threw me into first position. And so now that title
Yes.
company had to come to me to help, get settled up for them to get in first position. So I did get some money, but ultimately, they still owed money, and it's still to this day owe money, and I'm not going
Yeah,
to see it.
sometimes it's not worth the aggravation going after
Yeah.
people for
No.
But that's good. That's good to know that people see that contractors, they put their neck out, and when things go south, they're not going to recover all their money, recoup all their money, and going through all these hoops. So it's, a team, both parties have to be comfortable and, protect each
Yeah.
other for a good relationship and partnership.
And that's why, when like Miguel was talking about through all this, communication is always key. For me, anytime I'm dealing with someone that I don't know, then I'm having those, even with people I do know, I'm having those deep conversations about, hey, this is how I do things. This is what I do to keep you guys into the communication side of things. Like we talked about a week ago, about the types of programs that we use. And a lot of that is that we go in and put, to Miguel's point of the videos, we do pictures, we do updates, we do, and some of these clients may be out of state and some of them are mostly in state. So they're stopping by the projects and seeing progression. But if they're not, that's how we can kind of keep them abroad of what's happening and see, what their money's doing and that we're performing like we're saying we're performing, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a great point.
No, I would like to just jump in with an advocacy for hiring people who are licensed and maybe even bonded, and have a lot of track record. Because ultimately, how well you do is based on your ability to bring a deal in on time, on budget, and in the quality you want it. And you don't get that from the guys that are going to undercut the cost and stuff. You end up paying for it in another way. And so I would just always rather pay a little extra, and have the expertise and the ability to have good scopes with timelines and costs, and because it's really time that gets away from you as much more than anything, and that just destroys profits.
Yep,
That's
no
true.
That's a
doubt.
great point. Yes. Absolutely.
Miguel, were you a general contractor first, or were you a businessman? And if you know, that was one of our hardest struggles. We could run around and find properties and do all this stuff, but the business part of it was, how long did it take you to get the business savviness to, or did that just come natural or hand in hand?
That was kind of natural, hand in hand.
Right.
Yeah.
Because I think we see that with most of the really good contractors now, if they have their invoices and their paperwork in order, they typically do a better job than, you know, written on a napkin and, hey, you know, I forgot to invoice you, or here, let me write out a little receipt. Like we see that a lot with, and it's probably more unlicensed guys, but it just seems like the contractors who have their paperwork in order and their scopes and all that. So how long did it take you to kind of get that ramped up and
Hone in.
honed in so that you were?
Well, once I first started my my own personal business, I would say for the better part of that first or second year, I had all the stuff set up to where I knew what I had to do. It's just getting it all to flow and work smoothly. But yeah, I don't do the whole napkin on invoices. Everything I'll send you is either through an email or something like that that looks like it's legit. It's not going to be like, I'm not Harry from down the street or anything like that. I try to make it as professional as possible. And now, like I said, now everything is a lot smoother for me. I have invoice. I can send you one in a matter of seconds. I have everything that's pretty much set up to where I need it to be, so where it can be as effective as possible.
That
Do
is,
people
we've
expect a
talked to other.
warranty? I'm sorry. Do people
No,
expect a
go ahead.
warranty? Or do you give a warranty?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. And what is the
Depending on-
standard contractor warranty?
I usually give like a 2 year.
2 year? Oh,
Yeah,
wow.
wow.
Yeah, then depending on what exactly we're doing,
Mhm.
usually it's around that 2 year mark.
Wow. Okay.
And
Great.
never had any callbacks yet, so
Right.
I'll do it again.
Longest I've heard is a year, so that's fantastic.
Yeah, a lot of people do that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Great.
That's good. I don't usually do a warranty.
None at all.
No, because what I do in that aspect of it is that I'm acting as a general contractor, so I'm putting all these components together. So all the team members that we're particularly using at those times may not even be in existence in another year.
That's true.
What I do is I'm facilitating that warranty. So call me up, hey, I got this issue with electrician, because I'm not an electrician. I have to get the electrician. So I have to go back to those people who were on that job and and get them out there to do that work. And they're the ones that are servicing the warranty side, not me, not us as a GC. So ultimately, yes, we are doing the warranty, but ultimately, anytime we're dealing with the subcontractors, it's them that's doing the work. It's them that are that are doing the warranty for their work, right? So, and that's usually a year, to your point, James.
Okay, great. Thank you.
That makes sense. So
Bless you.
Thank
Awesome conversation. I have a question for both of you guys. If possible, if you guys can answer, that'd be great. I understand every project is different, every scope is different. I used to work with a group that used to flip like 30 or 35 homes a year. They were like machines. So they had it down to like whether if it was a light rehab or a heavy lift, to like a 12 to 500 square foot home. They knew what they were spending, or a pretty decent ballpark. Obviously there's unknowns, but they knew, this a while back, they knew a light rehab was X on a 1,500 square foot house, 3 bedroom, 2 bath, like and you guys are two different markets. Do you guys have like any sort of idea or anything like that what you're seeing in the market right now? Because as Jane and Sharon were saying, like like the cost of all the materials have gone up. So is you guys see a little bit of that? Have any idea into numbers like that, or not so much? Thanks.
Good question. Take it away, Miguel.
I was waiting for you.
But
Go
I
ahead.
don't know if I understand the question. So is the question, is there a like a per square foot per type of job that someone can say, okay, look, when you find a 3-2 with this much square foot, this is the ballpark of what you'll do? Or is it
Yeah,
more, hey, we don't do
yeah.
that, it's case by case basis? Does that sound right, Freddie?
Yes, yeah. So I'll ask it again a little, maybe more direct. So just do you have a ballpark number for what it is to flip a 3-2 1500 square foot light rehab versus a heavy lift, um or any guidelines that you go by, that like you're within this range of numbers? It could be per square foot or just like a ballpark number, but I know the guys that I used to work with, they used to do it by square foot.
Yeah, I mean, square foot can get you in trouble. But then also, I mean, as someone that's just trying to put a budget together real quick, I mean, it can give you kind of a real quick frame of cost. But if you're dealing with a 500 square foot house versus a 1,500 square foot house, obviously significantly it's going to be a more cost. Subsequently, if you go up to a 2,500 square foot house or a 4,500 square foot house, right, there's going to be more bathrooms, there's going to be more needs. Like, what is it that you're trying to go after with this house? Is it for a rental, or is it going to be for a fix and flip? I mean, because now you're dealing with two different types of products that you're going to be putting into the project. So there's, again, that's kind of, I don't know if you were on when I mentioned it, but that's understanding the number 9. Like, what is your finished product? What is your goal with that product? And once you understand that as the investor, or in your case, what you're asking, the more clarity that you have on what it is that you want for your finished product, then the easier it is for Miguel and myself, or even you, if you're trying to estimate, to be able to go back and say, hey, this is what we're putting into it. And I'll give you, for instance, like, say we're doing a tub removal and we're going to redo a new tub because tub is bad, right? So do you want to buy a tub kit? That's a fiberglass kit that has 3 panels around the walls, and then you're going to install that. In which case, you can buy that whole entire kit and tub for about $850 at a Lowe's or Home Depot, right? If you decide, hey, no, I want a tub, and then we're going to do a tile surround, well, now you're talking the tub you can buy for give or take $300-400, and then you're going to do this tile, which is going to cost you about $2,500 in material and labor, or $3,000 or whatever, somewhere in that ballpark. So you can get into a significant cost difference just on one item. So that's where a lot of this goes in, that when you have in that clear identity of what that project is supposed to be from the beginning, then that helps your numbers out and helps you to maintain your budget.
Great
Yeah, well,
answer.
as far as me, I don't have a set, square footage price. I deal with everything case by case because every project is unique in its own way. You don't know it's not gonna be the same as what you did a week ago, everything is different. So I don't really have a square footage amount price. I do everything, tailor made for that special project.
Correct.
Got
I
it.
would agree. So, Freddie, do you do a lot of fix and flipping, or are you wholesaling and you're just kind of coming up with numbers, or
No, the group that I would work for, they would just do a bunch of just flips, and especially PG County, so they knew. And I was doing a lot of the buying and the acquisitions for them as well. So I knew if I was going into like an auction, I knew my range because I knew how much they're spending on the rehab. And obviously we would do our ARV, etc. But yeah, we would have an idea, so I would know the range. And maybe it's also because, to your point, they already had like, okay, if it's this condition, they'll try to save the top if it's doable, and they would try to just keep it, cost minimum. And depending, some neighborhoods maybe were a little better than others, they would go a little more, but they had a pretty decent range, and yeah.
Usually when I'm doing the estimating, and Miguel's probably going to be very close to this. So let's say, for instance, let's take plumbing, all right? Because plumbing's it's complicated, but it's fairly easy if you think about it. So let's take a 3-piece bathroom. So you have a toilet, you have a sink, and you have a tub, right? So on all 3 of those things, you have waste lines and supply lines. So you have where the water goes and where the water comes from, right? So the plumbers, depending on the area, in Charlotte or Baltimore, may vary a little bit But right now that we're probably sitting at about $700 a fixture. So if you're redoing one bathroom, then you're looking at $2,100. So if you go and you have another bathroom, that's another 2,100. And then if you're looking at the kitchen, you got the sink, you got the garbage disposal, you got, the refrigerator. Now, some of those are only supply lines and they don't have waste lines. So there are some cost differences with it, but you can get a general idea of an estimate for plumbing. So when you start doing that, as far as the front side of it, hey, we know we're going to go in and do this whole entire house replumbing. Then you start adding up how many fixtures are in it, and then you can kind of get a rough idea of an estimate, and you can kind of really tailor this whole the estimate together for that budget. Is really it. So I always tell it, I figure it out for myself, and then I go to the subs and say, hey, Mr. Plumber, I got 12 fixtures, and this is what I'm willing to pay. I don't ask for quotes. This is what I'm willing to pay. Can you do it? And if so, when can you do it? And how long is it going to take to do it? Is really what it gets down to. Does that make sense?
That's
Yep,
perfect.
much appreciated.
And I think like a lot of times in Baltimore, like we knew if we could get a house for 20, and then Miguel could do a full gut flip for a rental for 40, you're still in 40 or 50, you're still in that range where you can have it as a rental. So sometimes we base things on those kind of numbers.
Of course, that was pre-COVID.
Yeah, that was like
Yeah.
that was like whoa, that was way long ago. That's the old days.
You better add some more to it.
Yeah, that doesn't happen anymore. But we want to be respectful of everybody's time. Miguel put his information in the chat. We certainly appreciate you being here and kind of giving your perspective on things. And if anybody has any questions for him, or certainly reach out to Miguel. His numbers are in there, and maybe we'll bring you back later on when we have a bigger crowd. It's December. Everybody's out looking for Santa
Everybody's
Claus.
on vacation.
Yeah, it's Christmas time, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, guys. We'll see you next week, and thanks everybody for being here again. Miguel, appreciate it.
No problem. Anytime.
I'll talk to you soon, man.
Thank
And
you,
thank
guys.
you,
Take
Ernie.
care, guys.
Thank you,
Good
everybody.
night.
Thanks, Miguel. Good night.
Good night. Take care.
Thanks for chiming in, Ernie.
Yeah, thank you, Ernie, for your input
Merry
as well.
Christmas.
Mhm.
See you
Merry
guys.
Merry
Christmas.
Christmas.